Wait. Supposed to press this green button first.
No! That's the record button! You're supposed to push the red button first. Hi, all. I'm Yuksen, and
Boss?
What?
Well, me and Black Rat have been listening to you on the radio thing you've been giving us.
You have?
Uh-huh. Well, it's that or that noise you call classy cow music?
You're only able to listen to 2 channels?
Yeah. I knows you the boss and all, but I got some ideas on making you less boring.
Really? Oh, please tell me how you orcs are going to make this show better.
Okay. Now, let's see the beginning and ending.
What about it?
I could do it.
Really?
Yeah, you sound boring doing them. Work sound better.
Well, fine, let's hear it.
Okay. Snuck right here, and this be Warhammer 40k's bad history in the galaxy. Last time, Boss talked about them sneaky bees, where he talked about them crumping some pointies and orcs. This time, he be talking about more crumping and some of their bosses and knobs. Oh, me almost forgot. They're DACA too.
That wasn't half bad, Snot Rock. Before I start talking about the Raptors campaigns, I'd like to talk about the chapter master of the Raptors, Laius Isidon. Laius Isidon the Grim first rose to prominence within the Imperium during the Fourth Quadrant Rebellion. Chapter Master Laius Isidon has sought victory for the Raptors over personal accolades and has delivered this success time and time again. He is in many ways the physical embodiment of the Raptors, being a great strategist, marksman, and excelling to unnatural levels in the arts of ambush, infiltration, and sabotage. On many occasions, when victory seemed to be sure in the hands of the enemy, Laius's cunning would turn the tide, and the enemy would realize, all too late, that they had played into the tricks and traps set for them, their only recourse being to die. A private man, Laius earned the nickname The Grim as a result of his stone-like appearance and aversion to unnecessary communication. Even within the chapter itself, he rarely speaks. But this taciturn disposition does little to affect the loyalty felt towards him. For the Raptors know that Laius Isidon is a man of well-conceived and highly effective thought, that when brought to bear in battle, will leave the adversary in ruin, and the Raptors suffering very little. Now let's talk campaigns. We're starting things off with the Badab War. Responding to the Inquisitor Legate's call for aid against the secessionist threat in the Badab sector, the Raptors, along with strong contingents from the Fire Angels, Salamanders, and Red Scorpions, arrived in the Maelstrom Zone in 906.M41 to participate in the Badab War. The Raptors deployed 4 companies to the war zone. This task force was led by the Raptors Chapter Master Laius Isidon, a warrior of great experience and expert in the arts of covert and rapid-moving warfare, in which his chapter excelled. As a highly experienced chapter master, Laius offered himself for command of the combined Loyalist Space Marines force, but lost out to Carib Coln of the Red Scorpions. The Raptors gracefully deferred to the newly appointed Loyalist commander without hesitation or reservation. The Raptors maintained an excellent relationship with the Red Scorpions chapter throughout the war, forming many lasting ties of blood and alliance with them. A perhaps surprising development given their past history and almost diametrically opposite styles and beliefs of the 2 Astartes chapters, who in many ways could not have been more unalike in character. The Raptors engaged in frontline combat duties for the next standard year and a half of the war. They primarily operated as a mobile reserve for the main Loyalist battle lines. Though well suited to these tasks, these extensive commitments caused the Raptors to suffer substantial losses in some of the heaviest fightings of the war. Within 2 standard years of their arrival, the chapter was no longer considered a combat-effective force, and given the withdrawal order from the war in late 908.M41. For those of you who want to know more about the Badab War, you should check out the Vox series my brother did on the war. His first Vox of the series is titled Tyrant of Badab. 61 years after the Badab War, in 969.M41, while en route to assault the orc world of Gramnia Major in the Segmentum Solar as part of the crusade against the Archmaniac of Calverna, the Raptors' ships were thrown off course while in the warp. When they emerged, the chapter was forced to crash their battered ships on the nearest planet, the death world of Gemadal. The planet Gemadal is an orb of dense, slimy jungles, stagnant and dank to a suffocating degree, and teeming with voracious predators and carnivorous plants. The atmosphere of the planet is so heavily saturated with moisture that the air is literally suffocating. Previous attempts to terraform the planet by the Adeptus Mechanicus have been abandoned centuries before, and to survive an hour on Gemadal is an achievement. The world is also infested with predators, and each day the raptors came under attack from swarms of carnivorous beasts and bat-winged creatures that could kill an ordinary man with a single bite. As the breathable air in the raptors' armor began to run out and the oxygen supplies dwindled, the chapter's tech marines desperately sought a solution. The tech marines were able to modify the breathing apparatus of the power armor's helmets to incorporate an osmotic gill that filtered the oxygen from the heavily moisturized air. This modification proved highly effective, and the raptors were able to subsist on a diet of indigenous plants and fungi. In 976.M41, after surviving on Gemadal for 7 years, the raptors were rescued from the Death World by the Ultramarines, battle barge Wrath's Honor. The constant struggle on Gemadal had transformed the raptors into jungle warfare specialists, and with the outbreak of the Third War for Armageddon in 998.M41, the chapter and their skills are quickly called upon. 5 companies from the chapter deployed throughout the equatorial jungle and vapor woods with the Armageddon Orc Hunters and Catkin Jungle Fighters, where their deadly jungle warfare skills are put to best use. As this never-ending war goes on, we have the Taros campaign. Taking place in the year 998.M41, the Taros campaign was an imperial military campaign fought by the 4,621st Imperial Guard Army and elements of the Adeptus Astartes to reclaim the imperial desert mining world of Taros from the Tau Empire and its Kroot and human allies of the Taros Planetary Defense Force. The Raptors deployed their 3rd and 6th battle companies in support of the Imperial forces during the Taros campaign. Now would be as good a time as any to talk about the 2 Space Marine captains involved in this campaign, starting with Captain Aurelius. Aurelius is the captain of the Raptors' 3rd Company and was the highest-ranking Space Marine officer in the Imperial Invasion Force during the Taros campaign. He is a longtime servant of his chapter, having fought in wars and imperial crusades for the past 100 Terran years. His entire company and support units were committed to the invasion by his chapter master. Although Lord High Commander Otto Ivan Gustavus was the overall commander of the Taros Crusade, in fact he had little control over the actions of Aurelius and his warriors. Still, Aurelius's experience and the reputation of the Adeptus Astartes made him a valued member of the command staff when planning operations. His forces would not be involved in a protracted ground campaign. Once their mission was completed, the Space Marines withdrew to their battle barge to prepare for their next deployment. As commander of the Raptors' 3rd Company and the most experienced warrior of the chapter present, Aurelius held seniority over Captain Cades of the 6th Company, although they shared the same rank. As befits his chapter's heritage, Aurelius was an aggressive commander who always sought to take the battle to the enemy and led from the front. Now let's discuss the other captain involved in the Taros campaign, Captain Cades. Cades is the captain of the 6th Company. His role during the Taros campaign was to provide support and battlefield replacements to Aurelius's 3rd Company. As such, he was subordinate to Aurelius. In the event Aurelius became a casualty, Cades would be fully able to step in and lead the Raptors' battle brothers on the battlefield. Whilst not as experienced as Aurelius, he was still a Space Marine captain, and had all the respect that rank demanded within Gustavus' staff. Cades was struck repeatedly in the right arm and upper torso with Morin shrapnel during the retreat of all Imperial forces from Taros, and he would later be interred into the cybernetic sarcophagus of a dreadnought as a result of the wounds suffered on Taros. Now, the chapter planet's position at the northern edge of the Segmentum Solar resulted in them being amongst the first Space Marines to respond to the returned Robute Guilliman's call. Understanding the chapter's strength, Guilliman instructed Chapter Master Laius Isidon to provide strike forces for 3 Crusader fleets, Primus, Secundus, and Tertius. They proved invaluable in scouting and guerrilla operations as the Crusades set out into the great galaxy. Meanwhile, as the chapter wages the Indominus Crusade, Chapter Master Isidon and his remaining battle brothers continue to patrol the Sutter Spiral Nebula, responding to calls for aid in conducting punitive operations against Drukari and Chaos Space Marine raiders. Isidon himself has led several disruptive strikes against orcs in the Vordas system. Now let's talk about equipment. Suffice to say, their equipment deeply complements their guerrilla warfare style of fighting. As I've mentioned in my prior boxes, the Raptors commonly use camo on their equipment, including armor, weapons, and vehicles. They have several designs in which they use to match the area they operate in. Adding to this, they are also known to make greater use than perhaps any other chapter of Phobos pattern armor. As a side note, Phobos pattern armor is made of a lighter weight ceramite than most other power armor. It has a streamlined design allowing for greater mobility, and its servo motors are engineered to be completely silent. The design, however, sacrifices protection for speed and stealth. In relation to vehicles, they maintain a sizable contingent of land speeders of all types as well as a core of diverse armored vehicles. Now when it comes to the specific need for some heavy support, they tend to make extensive use of the fast-moving Victor warsuits and impulsor transports. Well, I hope you enjoyed this series of short boxes on this great chapter known as the Raptors. Now next week...
Boss? Boss?
Oh, right. Well, why don't you go ahead then?
Next week is the start of the Finny Boys.
Also known as the Space Sharks / Carcrodons.
Yeah. If you want him to talk about any other beakies, put it in the comments. And don't forget to follow, like, subscribe, or join us, boys. Have a good old row, and until next time, this is Snotrock
and Yuksen
signing off. So, what do you think?
Well, you know what? I think we should ask our listeners and see what they have to say. Personally, I think it could use a little work.